Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shahzadi Samra for the course of African Literature, and the course code is ENGL 4117 and it's for masters. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the Famished Road, the author of the Famished Road, the man Ockrey, and we also discussed about the events of history that took place during that era when the Famished Road was written and published, and on which events he has focused in his work. So today we are going to discuss about the characters in the Famished Road. It doesn't contain much characters as in like the previous works. It has one main character, and the whole story revolves around that character, and there are almost you may say 6 characters, maximum 6 characters. So the first one is the Azaru. Azaru is the protagonist, or not as such the protagonist, but the main character. So he is also the narrator of the story. So he is an Abiku child. Remember, I told you in the previous lecture about the Abiku, the spirits who are born to die, but spirit child who willingly, sometimes they willingly die, but sometimes they willingly betray their companions, Abiku companions, and they decide to live in the eye, means on earth, instead of or in heaven. So he is an Abiku child who never lost his ties with the spiritual world. So he's named after Lazarus, Lazarus, so of the New Testament. So the story follows him as he tries to live his life, always aware of the spirits trying to bring him back, and the whole story revolves around his experience as he narrates the story, around his experience, how he's taken into the spirit world, and how he's taken back, and what kind of struggle his parents has faced because of this thing. So there isn't any name for his father. It is he's mentioned in the story as a father. So Azaru's father, he is an idealist load carrier. So everyone wants best for their family and community. So he suffers greatly for this, and because of the condition of his child, and because of the financial condition. So ultimately he became a boxer, and after that he after failing in the boxing, facing a failure in the boxing, he went for politics. So Azaru father loves him deeply, but is often bitter at having an Abiku, and occasionally goes on angry, violent tirades. So that is why Azaru and his father, they didn't have much close relationship. So Azaru's mother, she works very hard, selling anything she can get her hands on for the family. She cares for her family as every mother does, and constantly gives up food and security to her family and the ideals, but she is proud of her son and goes to great lengths to protect his son, because off and on he is taken back to the spirit world, and they just try to bring him back into the material world or physical world from the spirit world. So there is another character, Jeremiah, the photographer. He's a young artist who brings the village to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world to the village. I mentioned in the when I was talking about the Lion and Jewel, I mentioned that Nigerian people, they didn't know about the outside world, especially the Yoruban people or the Igbo people. They didn't know about the outside world, and the outside world was unaware of them. That was the reason these African writers, they started writing about their culture. So that photographer, he brought word to the village. So he manages to get some of his photographs published, but practices his craft at great personal risk. What risk he took, we will see in the story. There is another character, Madame Koto. Madame Koto is basically considered as the witch in this work. Yeah, she is she runs a local bar, and she does like Azaru, but at different times she thought that he brings just the bad luck back. So she starts out as a well-meaning woman trying to get along with everyone else, but as the story progresses she becomes richer, siding with the political party of the rich. So she is often accused of witchcraft, and she tries to help Azaru and his family financially on many occasions, but in return she seems to try to take Azaru's blood to remain young, to remain youthful. So if she was giving something, she was also taking something in back in return, not knowingly, not telling anyone. So the last character is the landlord. So he rented houses to the people, and in the house in which Azaru and his family lived, it was also they took this on rent from this landlord. He supports the party for the rich, and he's angry with Azaru's family for causing troubles to him and his compound. So these are basically the characters, and the story revolves around these characters only. So the major role is the Azaru, who is the narrator of the story, who is an Abiku child, and because of which the story enhances or progresses. So now move on to the story plot, summary plot overview of the Famished Road. The Famished Road begins in the land of beginnings, a realm from which spirits are born into the world of the living, and to which spirits return after death. So some spirits, the Abiku, they make pacts with one another that they will return to their friends in the land of beginnings shortly after they are born, by willing their own deaths. So the narrator is an Abiku who has died in infancy and been reborn many times. So although he is found to return to his fellow Abikus at his first opportunity, but at the novel's beginning he chooses to live. He didn't return to the land of beginning. Instead he chooses to live in the on earth in the with that family, and to experience. So Azaru, this story, it is set in an unnamed village basically, and Azaru is the spirit child who frequently sees spirits from very young age, and he sees many spirits that are interacting with the material world. So these spirits means you may say ghost. You can also use the word ghost, spirits. So these spirits, they beckon him to leave his body for very long time, during which he appears to be dead. So in fact, on one occasion he woke up in the coffin, as his parents thought that their son had died. So there is a spiritual ritual designed to sever a child's ties to the spirit world, but Azaru's parents cannot afford it, and that ritual was Ogun, that I told you about in the previous lecture. So as the time goes on, he grows to understand more about his power. So one day what happens that he has a premonition that urges him to flee his family's compound, causing his parents to follow him. So the moments later, the compound erupts in flame. So after being captured by the group of priestesses who hope to harness his power for themselves, Azaru escapes to the home of a police officer. So then there he sees the spirit of the officer's dead son, who attempts to possess Azaru. So fortunately, Azaru's mother arrives just in time to rescue her son. So as the family continues to struggle with finances, Azaru makes friends with the Madam Koto, a local bar owner, who often feeds him when his parents cannot afford food. So after Kotu, she hangs a magical talisman known as fetish above the doorway to her establishment. Azaru notices that it attracts all manner of grotesque spirits, naughty spirits, naughty ghost, or the evil, wicked ghost. So after narrowly escaping capture by the spirits, Azaru gets lost and comes down with malaria. So after finding his way home and making a full recovery, he steals the fetish, which causes the spirits to follow him. So he steals that fetish, and after managing to lose his pursuers, he buries the fetish, hoping to banish the malevolent spirits. So as the election season begins and the warning political parties roam the streets in van, blaring out the propaganda from loudspeakers. As this activity, it happens these days as well. So when the party of the rich, they distributes tainted milk to the populace and people get sick. The villagers, they retaliate by attacking one of the party's vans, so beating the men inside and setting the vehicle on fire. So Jeremiah, the photographer I told you about, a local journalist, he took pictures of the incident, but he is forced to hide in Azaru's home to avoid the party affiliated men who want him dead because he took the pictures. So the political factions are more akin to the rival street gangs than traditional parties, and supporting the wrong party can invite verbal harassment or physical assault as well. So as the election season began, there began the local riots. So after Koto, she expresses her support for the party of the rich, and because of which she lost many of her customers or regulars, and because the prostitutes or the thugs, they just scared her customers away. And because of this, as she was facing the downhill, so Azaru's family, they just slides deeper into the financial ruin. So during the rainy season, Azaru's house ceiling, it leaks for consecutive 2 years, nearly collapsing. So despite this condition, the bad or such the pathetic condition, the landlord, he raises the family's rent following a dispute with Azaru's father. So the father copes by spending more time at Koto's bar, where he gets into physical brawls or fights over political disputes. So meanwhile, he the Azaru, as the things were happening there, so Azaru, he was continues to be drawn into the spirit world. So one day, what happens, the spirit, he three-headed ghost, it tricked Azaru into smashing a blind man's window. So in retribution, Azaru's father just savagely beats his son, and fed up because of his father and all the beating, Azaru just led himself to go into the allow himself to be drawn into the spirit world. by the three-headed spirit or ghost. So once there, he angrily allows himself to become lost until finally his parents, they manage to rouse him with the help of some herbalists. They use the method of Ogun, as Madame Couto knew the method. So after Azaru's father begins to he began to, after the beatings and the incident of the three-headed ghost, his father, he began to channel his violence into boxing. So, however, while this is a healthier outlet for his anger than beating up his own son or getting into fights with thugs at the bar, he soon becomes obsessed and practically stops working altogether. So Azaru's father christens himself the Black Tiger and begins to earn a reputation in the community as a popular fighter. So some of the Black Tiger's enemies bring in an enormous man called the Green Leopard to challenge him to a fight. So the Black Tiger bets all his money on himself, barely managing to defeat the Green Leopard in a vicious bout. So he just narrowly escapes, Black Tiger narrowly escapes with his life, spending a few days in coma and plagued by his own spirits. But when the Black Tiger recovers, he resolves to run for political office. So in order to avoid the clash with the people or with his own son, he moved towards boxing, and from boxing, when he faced failure in the boxing, he just moved towards the politics. So he has the Black Tiger, he has one more fight at Madame Couto's, this time against a man in a white suit. So after enduring blow after vicious blow, the Black Tiger, he pulls off his opponent's suit. As soon as he pulls off that suit, white suit, there appear a grotesque spirit. Means there was a terrifying spirit. Means it was a spirit who just who just possessed someone's body and in a white suit, and started fighting with the Black Tiger. So as the crowd recoils in horror, he just knocks out the spirit and returns home, badly beaten. He was badly beaten by the spirit. So he slept for straight 3 days, battling with the other spirits in his head. So when the Black Tiger wakes up, he defeated all the forces of the evil that was happening in his head, that was making him sleep for the long time. So when this happened and Black Tiger defeated all the evil forces, it was the moment when Azaru also gained his peace. He was no longer tormented by the spirits himself. So this was the story. Like, it is a short one, but it is the whole story, that how things are happening, and how there were riots, beginning of the election season, there were riots, and how people were they were combining, or they were supporting the rich political party instead of the poor. So the Famished Road is particularly, it is a hallucinatory story with striking imagery of both the spirit world and the real world. So that is why in the introduction I told you that he combined the reality and the fantasy, and means he just he used the technique of magical realism in his work in order to make it different, in order to not make it boring. He was not creating any fantasy rather, but everything he has described in the story about the Bhikkhu child, about the spirits, in fact these were the beliefs of the Yoruban people, these were the beliefs of those people. That is why he has depicted these things in his story. So it is known as the hallucinatory story, and which represented both the imagery of the spirit world and the real world. There is question arises that Madame Khoto, she never demanded anything or any repayment, but she asked in that instead of money, she asked Zaru to spend some time in her bar. She believed that he brings good luck and hopes it will attract more customers. So soon the bar is full, but the new clientele is mostly from the spirit world. They are drawn to the bar, at least in part, by a desire to take Zaru back into their realms. So like Zaru, Madame Kutu, she could also see the spirits and their appearances are bizarre. So one has eyes that are totally white, another has 3 fingers on each hand and a head that was like a tuber of yam. So their spirits who to participate in human reality have borrowed bits of human beings. 2 albino spirits bundle Zaru into a sack and carry him far away, but he escapes and finds his way home. Because of this incident, he just stopped going to the Zaru, Madame Khutu's bar, and he just tries to earn money by running different errands. So at the end, Zaru, he says that he emphasizes on the importance of the spirit world and its connection to this world, to the physical world. So this is the whole story, and I will provide the text as well. You are supposed to read the text in order to understand the whole story. It is the summary. I cannot read text in these recordings. So moving on to the title significance, the famished road. In the beginning there was a river. The river became a road, and the road branched out to the whole world. And because the road was once a river, it was always hungry. So the contrast between river and road has important implications in African literature. And many scholars, they thought that the roads, they often appear in colonial era as a symbol of colonial colonizers possession or their penetration of the African wilderness. So it was they were changing things. If they were building roads and they were not even asking or getting consent from the people of the Africa on whose land they were building roads. So it was often as it is seen as destruction. It isn't welcomed by the African people. So then the forest of the famished road, roads are built under white overtures and nature is gradually destroyed. as in the Lion and the Jewel, when they asked Baruka to build roads or railway a track, he just denied their suggestion, or the business or the dealing. He just denied that because he didn't want to change the things. He wanted his village to remain traditional. So that is why when they built roads, people of the Africa, they saw it as a destruction, as because they were changing many things. They didn't think of it as something positive. So it is, I have quoted some sentences from the dialogues from the famished road. Too many roads, things are changing too fast. An old man, he says, complains about it. So they are destroying Africa, they are destroying the world, the home and the shrines and the gods. So according to them, if they were building building roads over there, it means they were destroying their word. How they were destroying their word? Because once the roads were built, there would be the incoming and outgoing. So and they didn't like this thing, because the African people, they were living in their own world. They were unaware of the outside world. So for them it was the destruction of the whole world. So the natural world, it retaliates, and in the rainy season the road became what it used to be, a stream of the permeable mud, a river. So earlier it is mentioned here that because the road was once a river and it was always hungry, because there were first there were rivers, and they built the roads over there, and the surface, or you may say material, it wasn't quite concrete as it is now in the present age. So he says that whenever there is a rainy season, it again becomes a river. So the question comes that why is the road famished? Why didn't he Okre use the word river? So actually he took this title from Wole Soyinka's poem, and the name of the poem is Death in the Dawn, that reads, may you never walk when the roads waits famished. Famished basically means hungry. So the question comes that why is the famished road dangerous? And Soyinka also wrote about it, about the famished road after witnessing while driving first the death of a white bird smashed against his windshield, and then the death of a motorist in a car crash. So because of these things, he used the word famished. And because of the condition of the Africa, Okre used the word famished, because people were making sacrifices over there to make their gods happy. And later in the poem, the death of in the dawn, and Soyinka says that the wrathful wings of man's progression, like the roads in the colonial era fiction, are linked to the destruction of nature basically, and traditional Africa through modernization. And modernization was basically destroying things. If I am not wrong, in the Wordsworth lectures about the Wordsworth, He also says that in lines composed upon Westminster Bridge, he says that it is civilization who destroyed everything, who destroyed nature, and because of the civilization, man became corrupt. So yeah, like in most people opinion that it was the modernization, it was the modernity that was creating all the chaos and all the destruction and disturbance in the world. So in the famished road, basically they used the famished as a metaphor, which means hungry road. So according to the okay, let's see what does he mean. It says in the famished road, when the Azaro asks about asks from his father. So he tells Azaro about the king of the road. The king of the road, he is a kind of a giant with an insatiable appetite who demands sacrifice of anyone or who wishes to walk on the to walk the roads of the world. So according to them, it was like the famished road they considered, because whosoever tried to walk those roads, whosoever tried to cross those roads, that road just engulfed that thing. So for a long time, people they sacrifice to the king and are allowed to travel the roads in peace. Then one day what happens? The famine strikes and people stop sacrificing to him because they have no food to spare. So the king kills those who dare to venture onto the road, and he kills those who stay in their home. So the people, they try to reason with him, they bring him large sacrifices, but there was no use. So the king eats away many people. So finally it is basically a myth. So the people poison the king, and the poison makes him desperately hungry, so that he ends up eating everything that he could, and including himself. So in the end, that is left is a stomach, and when the rain comes, the stomach melts into the road. So the king now has become a part of all the roads in the world, and his appetite can never be appeased. And they are using the word famished for end the story, because there happen many accidents on the road. So they just associated that thing with the road. So in many of the novels, the king of the road, it is named as the hungry creature. So and to satisfy the hungry creature, for them the only solution was to sacrifice. In many of the writers, they suggested that solution in their work, as it is a myth. But in Okri's novel, he says that the solution, sacrifice is not the solution to the problem of the king of the road. He says instead of it is basically a traditional way of Africans. It is their tradition to sacrifice for the king of the road. He says that these are the traditional ways. They no longer serve any purpose. So one should take chances. So that is why in his work he has shown a photographer, Jeremiah, who goes forward, who risks his life to travel the roads of the world, and saying that I am not afraid of the king. Like he was a photographer, as he came to their village, he might have gone to many other places. So he was not afraid to travel. And he says that I am not afraid of the king. Basically they were afraid of not of the king of the road, but they were afraid of facing the outside world, and because of which they just didn't they just never ever dare to cross those roads or to travel those roads. and if something happens, like any incident ever happened, they will think that it is the road is hungry, and that is why it is demanding a sacrifice, and it is eating people away. So for one can say that, one can assume or conclude that their tradition, basically the traditions of the Nigeria, they just because of those traditions, they just couldn't feel, or they were unable to form a nation in spirit. So the photographer, he just integrates newness into his life, and he used the modern technology, like he used camera, and in a way that allows him to connect with the world outside his small neighborhood. So publishing pictures of its struggle in a national newspaper. So another view is offered in the when Azaro has a vision of road being built in the spirit world, and the road is very beautiful and very short. So the spirits who built it can never finish the road, for the road is their soul and the soul of their history. So perhaps for them, to conclude, we can say that perhaps for them road is existence, which must be chosen by the Nigeria, by the three regions struggling like Madame Koto's Abiku triplets in order to become a nation. So the thing that I have mentioned here, that tradition is what has kept Nigeria rooted in ethnic factionalism, unable to form a nation in spirit. That is because they, as when I told you about the history, and many times I have told you about the history, I told you that they were divided into three regions and three political parties basically, and every region, every ethnic group, ethnic factionalism, every ethnic group, it was just loyal to its own ethnic group, and no one was the other person, the person belonged to the other ethnic group was considered as the risk for the community, and the people outside their ethnic group, they were distrusted by each other. So that these are their traditions, their own tradition. They kept the Nigeria to become a nation, or to feel like a nation. So this thing also is like mentioned, these things like these modern technologies are also mentioned in the Lion and the Jewel, and Ben Okri also talked about these things. And both the writers, they show that how they were unable to accept the change, because it may enable, or it might enable the people to of the outside world to see their world, and they were afraid of the thing, they were afraid of interacting with the outside world, and they didn't want to. They were so immersed in their own world, like they didn't want to, and they never felt need to interact with the outside world. So the famished road, basically it is they just you can also associate it because with the colonizers, as they built those roads, and you can say that they were hungry for the jewel, they were hungry for the power, for the possession of the land or things or everything. So one can also associate the title with that perspective, and one can also associate with the perspective or the meaning that we just discussed in this in this lecture. So for now it is all, and if you have any question, ask away, and I have also put references in the slides, and you can visit those websites to collect data on your own. And again I'm asking you, I'm emphasizing, basically insisting on reading the text of the Flemish Road, because without reading the text you cannot understand a thing. There many things will be uncleared without reading the text. So I highly recommend you, I highly insist all of you to read the text. So for today's lecture, it is all. Thank you so much for your patience and stay blessed.